Hi, people. It's Anthony here, once again, cutting through the noise of AI. I've been looking at quite a few things this week, and as my lens of this observation keeps going, I keep seeing things that, one, worry me, and two, excite me. Okay, example one of worrying me. Went out for dinner last week with a group of my friends. We're sitting down having something to eat, and being as we are quite now, quite loud and noisy and whatever, and discussing various things like football and you name it, whatever. And as I glanced onto the other table, something that really got me thinking. There was a family sitting there. It was a husband and a wife and their two children. They looked like a really lovely family, and they were sitting on the table enjoying themselves, but they were enjoying themselves by not talking to each other. They were enjoying themselves by constantly looking at their mobile phones. So imagine, take this picture. Imagine this picture now. You've got a boy and a girl sitting right next to each other on their phones, right? Pushing up against each other, as kids do, whatever. You've got the mother and father also doing the same thing, looking on their phones. That was their evening out. Now, as I was eating my food, this was going on for about nearly 10 minutes as they were waiting for their food to come along. And then when their food came along, they were just glancing up and looking up and then eating the food. And as they were eating, they were constantly going back on their phones again. And it made me think, wow, is that what it's like taking the family out? Not sitting together, but just constantly engaging yourself on this modern piece of technology called a mobile, swiping, giggling, not engaging in conversation. And in fact, there was one period of time when when the mother actually tried to conduct some kind of conversation. It just lasted for probably 10 seconds, and then they just basically went back to the food and eating and whatever. And what really struck me as well, the father was literally just swiping and eating and then saying to the kids, hey guys, cool, and then going back to his phone, right? Then as I looked to the other side of me, I saw a couple and they were doing the same thing. So whether or not they were going out, they were husband and wives where they feel like they don't need to talk to each other anymore, but they were doing the same thing. And what happened with them is that when the waiter came over and gave them the food, they didn't even look up to see what was served. He could have given them anything. It could have been the wrong table, but they just carried on with the phone and they just started to eat while using the phone. Isn't that not crazy? But it got me to think that, is that the kind of way that we're living now? That we're completely absorbed by technology? That communication has broken down? The only communication you can have is with either an iPad or a mobile phone in your hand. And what makes me really think even more is that I spoke about something last week when somebody said, are there cyborgs? And a cyborg is integrated with technology into a human. And I remember I touched on this and I said the thing is it's already there, because people are on their phones literally, if they get a text message, if they get a mobile phone, a call or whatever, they are literally triggered by this and they literally have to start communicating and swiping. And if they miss the phone, if it's ringing and they keep running over, I remember seeing a sketch when somebody was running to get their phone, tripped over, bashed everything, literally everything went from flying, and guess what? The phone went dead and they went crazy. And I really start to think about, where is this going? Do we feel as though our lives have now been taken over by this wave of technology? Because think about it. Is it affecting us? Hell yes, it's affecting us. If you go into a supermarket today, how many times do you see somebody coming up to you and saying, would you like some help? When you go to buy your goods. No, you don't. You have machines that do it all for you. And what really pisses me off is when you go to that machine, you know what I'm going to say now, and you put some item down and then it literally starts blinging and saying that this item, it's not working or something or another. And you have to call the assistant over. That's when you start talking to an assistant just to help you use this technology. Okay, what really gets me is when you do it a couple times. Anyway, that's another story. And then, why is it acceptable? Because that's now displaced people's jobs. You could say that it is a benefit, because if you look at education, education is now running really smoothly with technology. Oh, yes, they are. That's why we're seeing so many teachers completely fried with their brains because the mass overload what they have to deal with. We had the airlines that went down because the systems went down. Okay, so once there's a slight problem, and once you've relied upon this, all of a sudden everything goes down. Relationships. Actually, there's studies saying that relationships have been crumbling because of technology. I do believe that as well, because if you're not even talking to each other in your own home, like that table I was saying to you, what kind of relationship you're going to have in your own home? Not at a restaurant, but actually in your own home. You've got your phone, you're watching TV, you're swiping, whatever, okay? And also, your mobile phone. Let's go back to mobile, because that's what I'm talking about today. It's literally a mobile phone. Apparently, there's some research that says, but literally there's about 80 apps that we have on our phone. So approximately 80 apps. And out of that 80, we probably only use maybe 30. And only 9 of them are used constantly. So what's happened to the other 41? Because they're just sitting there. They're integrating with each other. No, they're just sitting there because we thought we needed that app at the time, and we probably used it once and never used it again. All right. So we've got app overload on our mobile phones. Also, when you look at the fact that if we are now reliant on a mobile to do almost everything for us in regards for transactions, the way we communicate, the way we entertain ourselves, can you imagine? Can you imagine if it was taken away from you? How many of you would survive today? How many people have just grown up with the fact that this is part of my life? Would you survive? And there's a program at the moment, I think, on BBC, which is talking about young kids, and they're taking their mobile phones away from them for, I think it's a period of 21 days or something. I can't remember. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of that. I want to see how it's affected them psychologically, mentally, and all different ways, how they communicate, because this is a great experiment. I mean, if this was done on the normal person today, how would they cope? And that's an interesting subject to talk about another time. But what I will say now is, as we go on, I want to talk about the ethical side of things and talk about the benefits as well, and how it's helping us to progress, how it's helping the next generation, and maybe how the older generation feel a little bit sort of how do I say, distance from this whole thing, because they feel as though it's too much for them. And we want to sort of break these barriers down, and also to see if it's actually just too much for us all. And like I said in the first video, are we suffering from information overload? And that's because of what we have in our phones, or what we're swiping, or what we're scrolling through, or what we feel as though is important. And in the future weeks, I'm going to have people on, and we're going to be discussing this subject, but we're also going to be discussing what they do, how it's impacted their professions. Has it helped them, or has it hindered them? Do they feel as though it's actually giving them benefits, or is it actually taking away or dumbing down their profession? It's getting harder for a lot of people. A lot of people are losing their jobs because of it, and that's another subject I want to talk about too. So, guys, we're going to continue this conversation. It really is something that I'm passionate about. I'll be talking about other experiences, other stories. So as we go along, please let me know your stories. Let me know how you feel about technology. How do you feel if it's impacted you in your work? Have you lost your job because of it? Or do you now feel that it's supercharged your job or your position or your whole profession? Anyway, signing off. Looking forward to speaking to you again about these subjects. And please like and subscribe. Please, I'd love to hear your take on this, because this whole channel is about communication. Although it's on a platform like this, I really want to hear from your comments how you feel about technology, AI, advancements. Is it too much? Please let me know. Okay, so Anthony signing off, cutting through the noise of AI.